Good evening and welcome to Wild Earth Wild Chats. My name is Ben Southall. I'm the founder of Best Life Adventures and I'm your host for the next X number of minutes until we either lose connection or we get the full deep dive on exactly what's happening with Geoff.
Benny, how are you?
What we're going to do is we're going to deal with the ups and downs of technology because I think you need to explain to me exactly where you are right now and why we might not have the most perfect signal.
I'm amazed we've got signal at all, but I mean, it's pretty magic. We're sailing at about 7.5 knots due north, heading for a bit of a glacier to hide tonight, and then sail again tomorrow to a northerly drop point where Kit and I will do either a complete transect of Svalbard or what we can manage with the ice at the moment, restricting our access to the north.
I think what I need to do is I need to just rewind because people might not know anything about what I am and you are talking about right now. You are currently in the midst of Project Zero, an incredible carbon neutral, sustainability focused expedition where it has seen you travel and traverse the world in this amazing vessel of yours, Nanook. Your son Kit's been there for the majority of the ride. Krusty's been at the helm for almost all of it. And we basically started, I'm going to say August of 2024.
Yeah, well, no, 2023. So 2023, 24.
2023. Stop it.
Yeah, we're into our third year now. So it's exhausting. It's been a pretty exhausting leg, this last one. So this leg was from Canada across the Atlantic at the end of their winter, dodging storms and massive seas. And then we lost engine, 2 days out. So 2,400 nautical miles with no engine. Meant that whenever we lost wind, we were just lolling about. And then coming into the Irish coast was daunting because you've got these enormous black cliffs with wind blowing you into them. With no engine, we ended up getting the last 21 miles towed by a fishing boat, and a beautiful father and son team got us tied up, fixed the engine, and then 2 days out on the way to the Faroes, the same thing happened. The engine malfunctioned again, and we got more mechanical advice in the Faroes, and then between the Faroes and Svalbard, which is, we're at 80 degrees north now nearly, lost engine for a third time, and then Krusty and I managed to fix it. So we're all good.
You've certainly rewritten the book on adventure in terms of just sort of every element of it, because people talk about going off on their expeditions and they plan and they maybe go for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks. This has been a change of life. This has been an ongoing journey for the whole of you, the crew, for you and Kit, really on a father-son journey. The ethos and the outline of Project Zero, for anyone that's coming into this conversation for the first time, give us a sort of heads up on it.
So it was a bit of an experiment just to see how hard it would be to do a back-to-back series of polar expeditions, north and south, entirely carbon neutral. So, we're garnering energy through this guy behind me. We're garnering energy through this little rock there. You can see that goes into the water when we need power, and then solar power, obviously. And wherever we can, we're sailing. So at the moment, we're under complete sail power. We would be completely carbon neutral. When we turn the diesel engine on, we account for that, and then we're planting trees in Kalimantan to offset the expedition. And whilst it's been really difficult from the pace point of view, because obviously sailing, sometimes you're, at running pace, you're not moving quickly. It took us 32 days to do, this crossing to Svalbard. You could fly it in 10 hours. So it definitely had time, and that's taken a lot of patience from family, friends, everybody with me, all my work colleagues with me being less available over the last 3 years. But we have definitely been carbon neutral. We're really proud of that. But whether it's practical on a commercial scale, I think all we're doing is getting adventurers and the adventure community to at least ask the question. If I climb Everest with a company that is genuinely putting back into the environment, planting trees, attempting to be carbon neutral, that's got to be better than somebody who's just doing it for purposes. So getting people just to have the conversation and start thinking about it in our community, the adventure communities who we influence. But yeah, I wouldn't say it's been easy. Bloody difficult.
We've spoken to you a good few times. Wild Chats has sort of changed in its format since we spoke the first time. We were doing the Instagram lives. We're now working with this new platform, Riverside. It's fascinating that we've seen sort of the journey evolve. What left as a very green vessel that had been totally revamped for the journey has now undertaken some serious sea miles to get to where you are now. I think we spoke to you coming across the Pacific. We spoke to you from New Zealand. We spoke to you in the bottom of South America. We had the most fantastic, and it still gives me the buzz, the cross we did to you on the Antarctic Peninsula with you holding the phone, watching the growlers and the icebergs go past. That was probably one of the pivotal moments in the journey that we've taken with this podcast. And now you've taken the vessel since then. I mean, it was the last time we spoke, the bottom of South America. Just give us the heads up of what happened from there to get you almost now to literally the polar opposite on the planet.
Well, I stepped off the boat in Brazil, and the intention was that I would rejoin it in Europe. We had a crew, who were getting it across the Atlantic. In fact, there was a bit of a leadership breakdown. They nearly lost the boat, did a lot of damage to the boat off Brazil, and they limped back to the Brazil coast for repairs. The leadership fell apart, the crew fell apart. So Krusty and I had to fly back in to the Caribbean to then get it up to Halifax. And then that put us in a position where to make this expedition possible that we're about to try and attempt, we had to sail across the Atlantic at the wrong time of year. And there were parts of that journey that were pretty terrifying, like huge seas. But more than anything, the swell sizes were not as bad as the Southern Ocean. We had 7 storms down there. The wind strength was not as bad, but it's just so disorganised. This is quite a nice flat sea today, very organised. Mid-Atlantic, it was just mountainous seas coming from 3 or 4 different directions. The poor old boat.
Comfortable, yeah.
Saddle, crew was sick for days. It's bloody workable. Look at it now, just tripping along. Not a lot of wind, and we're paddling along at sort of running pace. Beautiful.
Just give us, Geoff, give us an insight into Nanook and the history, because people that have not sort of seen this before, or any of the other episodes, might just not know nothing about this vessel that you're on. Really, I mean, you took it up and became the owner of it about 2023, 2022, and since then you obviously spent some serious coin on it getting it going, and now it's basically a home.
Yeah, it's been late 22, 23. It was built in Perth, Dutch design, but the guy that built it was quite an anxious character. And he's over-engineered the whole structure to a point where we can get into ice and get crushed by ice with no concern. Where we're heading now, if you imagine Svalbard is right on the edge of the Arctic ice sheet, we need that robust hull to push our way in and try and get to the north of Svalbard. But we've been very blessed. They've had a strong southerly, which is not a usual wind for here, that's pushed the ice off the north. So we think there'll be a small window in the next 48 hours where we can get to the northern point, and then Krusty will drop us off. Kit and I will ski 450 kilometres, pick up on the other end of the archipelago or the island chain. Hopefully we'll see Krusty down the end there. But, I mean, the boat itself, we redone the energy system. It's lithium battery system, wind power, solar power, new sails, new rigging, new ropes everywhere. You wouldn't know that now because it's done 3 hard years of sailing.
Geoff, just turn 40 degrees one way or the other. Take the wind off the mic. That's much better. Talk to me now. That's much better. Yeah.
Yeah. So yes, you've just done a lot of miles over a relatively short period. But sustainably and doing really well. You got to look at these mountains behind me. Have a look. Can you see that?
Yeah, well, we can see that. Absolutely. I mean, looks like a very foreboding ocean. You don't want to be dropping that one. You're survival suited and clipped on. Is that the process still?
Yeah, definitely. If this water, you'd be dead in 15 minutes. If you didn't turn around and pick someone up, you might not fall into a vat of acid. It's so cold. It's about 1.9 degrees water temp.
So Project Zero, is a combination. It's a number of different expeditions that are done in different parts of the planet. 3 of those so far have been with yourself and Kit crossing ice fields. The first one, obviously, down to the south of South America, across the Patagonian ice fields from Chile into Argentina. The second of those down in the Antarctic Peninsula. And this one, the third one, what's the difference with this one? Talk to us about the Svalbard expedition.
So the Svalbard expedition is really just an Arctic expedition, just to show that we can get into the Arctic completely carbon neutral. We can do a 2-week journey, and obviously the bears are a major risk, crevasses are the major risk, but doing it all wind powered, solar powered, and come out in the end in one piece. So we're not scrimping on safety, we're not scrimping on access, but just showing that responsibility as explorers now. If we really love these areas and they're so fragile, like we're in the home of the white bear, which is what Nanook is named after. Nanook means polar bear in Inuit. So it feels like a spiritual homecoming. And there's something very special about how we're getting there. And I think, honestly, the family have kind of flagged that, okay, this is it. So this will be our final expedition, I would say, with Hero. We'll probably do other journeys down the track. But in terms of Arctic journeys, I think this will be the final, and then back to Tromsø to either sell the boat or wrap things up.
I need to remind you, Geoff, that it is Mother's Day on Sunday, so you need to make sure, I'm sure you're well aware of it, that Sarah is back at home and you're making sure that your nearest and dearest is being looked after from afar.
Absolutely, yeah. She's amazing girl, very patient, and I just got off the plane to her. She's doing well.
We need to not forget, however, that you just had a previous expedition, your last one, the Iceland Journey, the ponies of Iceland. I would love to know more about that, because that sort of, in a way, didn't fly under the radar. We just didn't cover it ourselves at World Chat. So that was another journey you did with Kit. Give us the sort of surmise of that one.
Yeah, well, that because Nanook had a lot of damage, we ended up leaving Nanook, then flying to Iceland to pick up the horses, and then rode from the north of Iceland all the way down through to the Vatnajökull Glacier, which is the biggest glacier in Europe and one of the sickest I've seen. It's really popping some damage from the warming of the planet. And we did a journey on Vatnajökull and actually had a tent failure, just the wrong gear selection. We underestimated the wind strengths there and had a night completely exposed with up to 60 knots. So it could have easily gone way better. And it's always the way, you think, oh, this is a short expedition. Well, we're probably slightly underprepared and disrespected the environment, and it gave us an absolute smacking.
Geoff, can we take you inside for a minute to try and just get some of that lack of wind noise out there? I'm loving what you're saying. I want to hear all about it. I just want to make sure we get everyone else's audio on.
Yep.
As he dives downstairs. All of this broadcast is brought to you by the magic of Starlink as well. It's incredible that we have been to all these different parts of the planet with Geoff and the crew. We get virtually this perfect connection all the time, which is so wonderful that in a way we're sort of intruding on these unique pioneering expeditions. But it's also good to be there, with the front row seat to be able to witness it and see it. We've seen the seas, we've seen the oceans, and now we're sort of journeying with you up the coastline of Svalbard.
Yeah, amazing. I mean, the signal's been ridiculous. Better than we have back home sometimes.
I agree, totally. So listen, Svalbard, Norwegian and Russian territory. Where did you land in Svalbard? Did you sort of have to do your customs and get back into a new country? And then where are you traversing to? Where are you heading to now?
Well, it's a bit of a weird one because we left Ireland, West Island, so it's not part of the EU, but then sailed into the Faroe Islands, which is also separate from the EU, checked in there.
Yeah.
In Svalbard, there's no real customs of significance, so we will have to check when we make it back to the Norwegian main bubble from a customs point of view and immigration.
Isn't it?
Yeah, it's very strange. But the place is a weird mix of Russian, Norwegian, and there's quite a bit of interest, a little bit like Greenland, because with, global tech, what they are, Svalbard's very well placed to pick up missiles going from Russia to America or vice versa. So, more military interest. When we left this morning, we sailed past a big naval frigate that looked like it was running the Norwegian flag. Going, why on earth is that up here? It's so bizarre.
Yeah, there's stuff going on. So you're in funny territory, really, aren't you? Hey.
Yeah, it's bizarre. But anyway, we'll just focus on the expedition and staying alive, and we'll worry about politics when we get back.
How did you in the early days? I want to sort of rewind to maybe the sort of the pre-expedition, the concept to come up with this. I mean, you're famous in your own mind and everybody else is for the Arctic exploration that you've done, the multiple crossings down there on the southern part of the planet. Did you have this sort of idea and concept about this whilst you were alone doing these big wide journeys? Was it when you got back to the family home and you sat with Kit? Where does the idea for something like Project Zero come from?
I think it was a joint thing. Kit and I sat down, and obviously it was a great way to showcase his story, filmmaking, as well as using all my polar survival knowledge developed over the years, but also to look, okay, what does the end of my adventure look like? We've always done for charities like Draft Foundation or the She Home, felt real pressure to try and impart to the adventure community the importance of at least looking, emissions and the damage we're doing by actually exploring. How do we minimize that? And, initially it just seemed difficult, but with Kit and also Finn Walton, all the environmental stuff, it's actually been easier than I thought. It was less trees to offset our plastics. So anytime we put diesel in or generator in, all of that carbon. Yeah.
Just starting to lose you, Geoff. I'm just starting to lose your connection on your audio. It's just getting a bit speckly in the way. I don't know what's happened. It was all good outside, but then we had the wind noise. But now we've just got this slight break in the conversations. So
yeah.
I don't know what's going on there. Yeah, well, all we can do is keep rolling. That's all we're going to do. So Project Zero sort of went from being the idea to having the concept and then putting it together to go out there and find the partners. And obviously Kit's storytelling, is fundamentally integral to not only keeping partners and sponsors involved, but then having an end product, a tangible end product at the end of this. How will we throughout this, well, obviously the platforms and the social media and the storytelling, how will we get to see, any of the end results of the sort of documentary making that's gone on?
Yeah, well, the Iceland film is now complete. It's doing the kind of adventure film festival kind of circuit. And amazingly, one of Kit's films has just made it into the Brooklyn Film Festival in New York. So that's super exciting. And I think obviously there'll be some flow on exposure from that. But the actual film from Project Zero would still be 12 to 18 months away. And then obviously we'll let everybody know where and how they can watch that. But I think that'll be fascinating because that's going to cover obviously the rigors of the Southern Ocean, the dangers that we face climbing from sea level through the forest up to the ice fields of Patagonia, crossing all the way to the backside of the Cerro Torre range, and then back to the boat, then sailing down, across the Drake's Passage, avalanches, snowstorms, blizzards in Antarctica, and then an attempted crossing of the peninsula, and then a turnaround and a race to the boat, hunkering down, storms there, then obviously all the shenanigans and drama getting back across the Drake's Passage and then all the way up to this leg and obviously Svalbard. I think, it's going to be a difficult story to tell because it's just such a massive...
Faceted, isn't it? Yeah, it's comprehensive in the world of adventure. It really is.
It really is. But I think, it's just been a wonderful journey in so many respects. It's been very, very tough. Not a lot of sleep, a lot of legs. I think of all of the resources that we've stretched the most, sleep's probably been, the most difficult because, we're a crew of 4. You're on every 4 hours. And then sometimes when the weather's foul, you've got 2 people on. So it's 4 on, 4 off, basically. You're not getting proper rest. That probably will be something we'll be trying to get through in the film in terms of, we can make it look so easy sometimes by just doing the Instagram post and you miss out a lot of the pain along
the fan. Yes. Yeah.
I feel like the film will just capture some of that pain along the way, so people understand how difficult it's been in so many respects.
There's a lot of responsibility that comes down to you in terms of crew selection. We dug into it in the past, and the complexity of finding a balance of people who may well work on paper and may well work on the sort of smooth water sailing together. But when they get out in the hard stuff, and when your crew really, they, in a way, they sort of take a backseat, but they're so important to getting you and Kit safely in passage to new destinations. That's what it's all about. How do you select a crew to start off with? And when you start to have those hard problems on the coast of South America, how do you sort of get through moments like that?
Yeah, it's been. I mean, we've had full control the whole time, and the crew obviously has been Kit, Geordie, Krusty, and myself for the majority of the first 4 legs, and that crew worked very well together. And then there was a bit of a leadership vacuum when Krusty and I stepped off the boat, and we put an old skipper in who just didn't have the metal for it. It fell apart at sea and very nearly lost the boat. So, I felt like when either Krusty or I were on board, things were very much in control. But, the most high risk period for the boat was when we were off. This leg, we've had an awesome crew. Geordie, unfortunately, had to work. So Mick stepped in.
Instead of having a nice holiday sailing the biggest oceans in the world with you, Geoff, yeah?
Exactly. He didn't feel like he missed anything in the Atlantic. He was quite happy not to be. Now that some of the images are coming, wishing he was here. But yeah, we've had a brilliant crew this one. Everyone's got on superbly and just got the job done. And we've had some serious digs. So, but it's not it's not an environment you can just drop someone into. It gets progressively more difficult the colder it gets. Going to open sea with big, and then into confined areas with some ice pressure over the next days. So that'll test us a little bit further.
In terms of father-son relationship, obviously Kit sort of comes and goes because he heads out back to where he resides in Canada. He comes back to Australia for a while, and then he's back with you on the boat. When you sort of get back together, you spend that time apart. It must be wonderful just to sort of get back into your groove, and it can't take long. It's not like 3 or 4 days later, finally you find your pace and your rhythm. You guys must work so sequentially when you get back as a team. It must be fascinating.
Yeah, it's been probably the all blessed period of time working with Kit as an on partner and an on ocean partner, and how seamlessly that's worked. And we have hard conversations. It's not like we're skipping through the dandelions and pretending everything's all right. Like we'll pull each other up. He'll let me know if he thinks I'm pushing too hard, or push a bit, vice versa. And I think that's been amazing to watch how seamlessly we work. Once we get onto the ice, we step up a gear and work even better together. There's not a lot of conversation needed, and sometimes conversation is hard to have because the wind's taking your words away, or we're significantly far apart, yell at each other. Instinctive what's going on, especially moving through broken crevasse territory. And yeah, that's been a real honour and a privilege to spend that time with them. And I think as an old man, I'll think back on Project Zero, and I think the single biggest achievement is really how well we operated as a father-son team.
Yes. Yeah. I think just thinking about how, in your early days of polar exploration, your storytelling very much was limited to you making those sat calls home, to maybe writing a blog and getting it out there. It was very sort of the maximum you could do at the time, but really had the minimal sort of outgoing effect. Having Kit there, storytelling in such a different way is really the best hand-on of the baton to understand the dynamics and the long-term effects of climate change. We hear about them all, we know about things until you get there in first person to see the retreat of the glaciers, to see the change of the landscapes. You really can't sort of story tell from an honest heart. So to have Kit there to take it to a bigger audience is a massive thing. What have you sort of noticed on this journey about the way that climate change has affected those locations you've got to?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be really hard to stay positive. Like if I think back to Port Lockroy, the southernmost British station that we sailed into, there was a small crew there, and we had this conversation. What are you seeing from your perspective? And I explained, obviously the glaciers that we're climbing are more unstable. The snow bridge, we seem to have more unstable snowpack, and you can see where the glaciers are retreating at pace using maps, that were made in the 1950s. Often kilometres of glacier are gone by the time we get there, 2025. But, if you sit with someone else who's on the front line, there's a beautiful environmentalist at Port Lockroy who was just saying, how do you stay so positive? And I just said to him, well, you're a flag bearer. You don't really have the option of getting all down in the dumps and curling in fetal position, sucking your thumb on this. You have to come out of the trench, hold the flag, and scream your head off to make sure somebody's listening to you before it is too late. But then also understanding human beings have been very, very clever over time at creating solutions. And I think it'll come down to some form of carbon scrubbing tech to diminish the changes that we're seeing. Obviously, the science guys, that's sort of in there. Really more us just to get the conversation going. But I honestly think, if I look at what I've seen over the period of my polar career, it's just the speed of the degradation. People are not understanding what's going on. I had an old guy come down to the boat at the Faroe Islands, and he's obviously a climate denier and had a full-on rant and a bit of a go. And it's not in a position to comment really because you haven't seen what I've seen. So come with me, and if you see what I've seen and still feel the same way, I'll be really surprised. But in suburbia, it's very easy to put your head in the sand and be an ostrich when you're seeing what I'm seeing on the front line at the polar regions, because obviously the top and bottom of our Earth is the most sensitive and it's the most important because it's that reflective surface that we need to keep the heat out of the atmosphere.
For people that are, listening to this, watching this, and whatever medium they're using now, there is that sort of very big doom and gloom that I am just an individual who is one of 25 million people in Australia or how many billion people in the world. What can people do on their normal everyday rotation around the planet to better and lessen their footprint?
There's some incredible work being done on renewable energy and applying pressure, and obviously a lot of politics complicated. But I think if everybody's just been more aware and trying to use less within their lifestyle, trying to make sure they offset as much as they can, and just politically apply pressure so that we've got leadership that understand what we're seeing on the front line and not bearing their head and just getting all commercial. And the essential thing is human greed has pushed us to this point, but picking leaders that have a more long range view, I think, is super important. And just applying that pressure so that we're constantly looking for options and bettering the technology. There's some incredible work being done, but I wish I could wave a magic wand. I don't think there is a magic wand, but I think just having the conversations, and if you really don't think it's happening, at least get to the either end of the earth, see it for yourself, and then have those discussions with people. And I'm obviously a veterinary scientist at heart, so I approach this from a very practical, scientific point of view, and I'm not wanting to get swayed by emotion or people's political agenda. I'm just looking at the fact that what we think from a science point of view is very clear cut.
I'm going to be very honest, Geoff, and I'm going to value your opinion a darn sight more than Katy Perry stepping out of her 11-minute space ride, to be honest with you, and the view on the planet Earth thing. That puts you right up there on the top of the pedestal, my friend, doesn't it?
But we've got to stay optimistic as well and go, as human beings, we will find a solution, but we won't find a solution if we're pretending it doesn't exist.
Yeah. So these journeys that you're taking, these stories that you're telling are all instrumental to this. For people to watch, we're just on the half-hour mark now. You're listening to Wild Earth's Wild Chats. My name's Ben Southall. I'm your host for the evening. We're listening to Dr. Geoff Wilson, who is currently sailing along the coast of Svalbard at the 80-degree line on this marvellous planet Earth. We're currently broadcasting from Currumbin Valley on the Gold Coast in Queensland, where it is tipping down with rain, and it's real winter here, Geoff. It's dropped to 18 degrees tonight, so I don't know what you're moaning about.
You guys have been wet for the last 8 weeks. Have you?
It's been miserable. We had a week of dry, and it's been miserably wet. But I haven't really been in the country. I've been traveling, so I haven't really seen so much of it. When it comes to gear, I want to talk about gear because good gear proves itself in harsh environments. And we always, there's that age old adage of there's no such thing as bad weather, there's bad clothing. You must have put some gear through some serious tests over this time. What have you sort of found? It's all about, Wild Earth's all about clothing and gear and the right equipment. What have you found with some of the sort of tests you made and some of the heroes that you've learned?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely. We are pretty instinctive now. I can pick up a fabric, pick up a pair of salopettes, and know immediately whether it's going to make the distance. Like, I've got the basic Arc'teryx bib and brace, Arc'teryx jacket. This has done, like if you bought skiing and you skied a week a year, in 5 years it would do less than 35 days. In the last 3 years, it's probably done over 200 days exposed, and it's going strong. Like, it's tied, the material's tied, but it just shows you how well the zippers are made, the connection, stitching, fabric's amazing. So I would say the absolute heroes would be the Arc'teryx, all of the product from their line that we use. They build for the Canadian military, so it's very high spec. We have put it through way more than even the military guys would put their gear through, with salt immersed over everything, damaging the stuff. And then obviously on the boat, we've got a whole bunch of systems that need to be maintained and managed. Dometic have been absolutely integral in terms of our refrigeration, toileting systems. Enerdrive, absolutely instrumental in terms of the lithium core and then all the connections so that we can keep comms going. In terms of eyewear was one, I don't know if you saw images from, I think it was the Patagonian crossing where I ended up getting snowblind, and that was through using a product that was not properly polarized. So we switched back to Smith from a different supplier. Smith Optics, we've not had any problem with, like, amazing gear in the environment. The light here, it's a bit grey today, but the light in the last 48 hours, we're 24-hour daylight now, so no.
Sure,
And
yes.
it was eye-burningly bright. So Smith Optics have been freaking awesome there. There's like water gear, I would say, has been about 80% what I expected.
Yeah.
So our marine systems have just let a little bit of moisture in where I would have expected they wouldn't, but still very, very good. In terms of tents, I would never stray from Hilleberg again.
Yeah. Lesson has been learned. You only do it once. You only make the mistake once, I suppose, yeah?
You'll never see me out of a Hilleberg again. MSR stoves, phenomenal. The Cedar Summit sleeping systems with the Alp bag, the Thermarest, inflatable mattress, all of that has been phenomenal. So I think honestly, you could walk into Wild Earth and the guys doing their buying have picked the lines very, very well. You could almost put your hand on anything and it'll be in the top couple out of 10 globally in terms of robustness. Like, you're not going to get gear failed. Other adventure stores that I won't name, you could go into and 9 out of 10 of the pieces are going to fail once they're put under load and stress. Wild Earth have done really well, I would say, in their purchasing. It's interesting because you step into an adventure store in Svalbard and there's obviously a lot of expeditions coming up here. It's got a history of Arctic exploration. And even if they're going up to one valley away from Longyearbyen, they're getting exposed to extreme temperatures, and their product are almost in line directly with Wild Earth's shelving. Obviously, the selection, the environment is kind of picking the gear that's going to work. And
you got it. I love. We sort of dug into the externals. I do remember the internals and your gut health and looking after your diet and everything else. I remember you were quite lucky in the early days of the trip when you left Southport, because I think Sarah had stocked the freezer with some pretty amazing home cooked food, which you're probably not privy to at the moment. What are you living on? What do you pick up when you reprovision in the Faroe Islands and places like that? What are you putting back in the boat to put in your bellies?
Well, they were trying to give us their traditional puffin and pilot ale but we said, like, no, I don't think a climate change journey should be munching on whale blubber. But, for them, it's sustainable. They're a very low population and it's done within traditional lines. But we pretty much survive cooking day by day now because depending on the sea state, if the sea state is horrendous, then we're down to cup of soups or porridge, for dinner. But when it's good, we're cooking. We've got a couple of good cooks. Mick's a good cook. Kit's a good cook. So Rusty and I are well fed. Yeah, I get by. I can do a good bolognese. But yeah, when we're on the ice, we'll be back to the old backcountry foods and the Brook Farm polar granola, which is super high calorie. You've got to be careful with that. You'll shit your pants.
Yeah. So when you sort of look for, we might start to try and wrap it because I know you just had a sail change and you've got lots of things going on there. So when you look forward, Geoff, obviously you've got sort of the end almost in sight. Once you've got through this next expedition, you're looking towards the end of Project Zero. In terms of the future of expeditions and exploration and adventure on planet Earth, what are your sort of your dreams and passions for other people as they explore planet Earth and tell stories?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love that you've got the young bucks coming through in Kit's, cohort that are adventuring but telling the stories way better than we did. Because, traditionally it was like, oh, I'm a big, strong guy, I'm a strong girl, and I climbed this mountain and why, there's no real understanding of why. And then, we had a tough time and then we came down and that was the adventure story. Whereas now we're unpacking, okay, well, who are you? How do you tick? Why would you push yourself to that limit? And where does your strength come from? Where does your self-belief come from? What is your faith? All of that sort of stuff getting unpacked in a much more vulnerable, open way, which is so much more compelling than, just the A to B stories. So
yeah,
those
absolutely.
kind adventure film going to improve so much in the next decade. But I mean, in terms of what I want for other people, I think it's more just getting out and seeing these areas and then falling in love with them so that we protect them. Because people don't understand or they don't love an area, then they don't stand for it. And then we've got these signature species, and this is why Nanook was called Nanook. The polar bear is the canary in the coal mine. So if you see a bear and you fall in love with that bear and you want to protect it, then it's protecting the whole ecosystem below him. And, that canary in the coal mine is obviously at risk now, but with sustained kind of pressure over the next decade, population numbers can build up and we can show that we are capable of at least slowing this change down. So I think
I have to flip that as well, though, Geoff. I have to look at you talk about protecting the polar bears. You're about to disembark the vessel to the unsafe environment of Svalbard where bears are roaming wild and free. How are you protecting yourself with all of that going on?
Can you grab me a right? So basically, this guy is step one.
Yeah.
So obviously the round is pretty solid. That's so it's designed just to scare the bear. Obviously, if the bear's probably 100 meters away, we want to push him out of our area, and then fire one of these across his bow, and hopefully that pushes him away. If he keeps coming on, then obviously we start getting more serious, and then this guy becomes a bit more of a protection, which is a 308 caliber. I pray that I never have to engage a bear with this, but you'd be very foolish to be out here without it. In fact, it's illegal. We have to have it on our back at all times.
So you're not as a vet using a tranquilizer dart and then getting your distance and disappearing. This is proper. It's you or me, and at the moment, I need to survive this one.
Yeah, and if we have to kill a bear, it's a murder investigation. So and take all steps to avoid it. So I think it would be very, very unlikely if a bear came through the tent at night. That is a potential outcome that we'd have to shoot it. But we have a climbing rope in a perimeter around the tent, probably 30 meters off the tent, and then within 10 meters of the tent, a tripwire with flares, and they're almost like a little mini claymore mine that make a hell of a noise if he trips the wire. So there's a little bit of protection there. And then legally, we have to have someone on watch. So one of us.
Two of you, you're basically on a watch rotation again. You thought you got a terra firma and you get a decent night's sleep, but there's a different thing you got to watch out for.
Oh no! So it's like, what a bummer. But
Yeah.
I think you're probably not going to be sleeping very well if you're having one on watch. Persons are able to sleep peacefully.
I'll be in Botswana in a month doing exactly the same as we're in the roof tent in the middle of Chobe and Savuti. So we'll be on watch for hyenas and lions, and you're at the opposite end of the planet doing it for polar bears. I love it.
That's phenomenal, mate.
You're traveling over, you've traveled over multiple oceans over the last number of months. There's a fascinating film that I'm actually going to go and watch over the weekend, Attenborough's new movie, Ocean, which is all about the continuation of planet Earth vitally relies on the health and the safety of our oceans. You've obviously been privy to see those. Have you seen much in the way of human impact in the ocean? There are vast things that we talk about, plastic ocean guys, things like that. Do you, when you're on the ocean, get to see much of that?
Yeah, it's been pretty horrific in terms of looking at the fishing pressure in some of these really rich fishing grounds. So between the Faroe Islands and here, there's a couple of shelves there that obviously the fish move along, and there would be maybe 15 to 20 ships, big motherships with baby ships out filling their freezers. In fact, it was quite hard for us to sail through them at night sometimes because they were just everywhere. And we ran a lure for how many miles, Mick? Probably got mixed falling asleep. This is how hard we work our crew.
Yeah.
He's back up.
Doing all right.
Back up. Yeah. Pulled the lure. So I don't know whether that's just we're very bad fishing people, but
or the tail of the ocean. Yeah.
Yeah. But, there's definitely an impact here. And the problem is it's international water. There's no governing body. There are Russian boats, Norwegian boats, American boats, Canadian boats. So
it's pillaging whatever they can.
A bit of a free-for-all.
I'm looking forward, Geoff. Let's give you some time with the crew again. I'm going to ask you, where will you be in 24 hours? Where will you be in 1 week? And where will you be in 1 month?
So 24 hours, we'll be at the base of the glacier at anchor. And then tomorrow we'll press on to the north. And then I think in a week we should be, a third to halfway through the 450-kilometre traverse. We're hoping the wind is going to go from the north, and then tide power becomes possible.
Yes, the lights will come out. Finally.
Yeah, if you're watching the tracker and you see us moving well, we're on tide power. If we're moving at snail pace, we're either being eaten by a polar bear or just mile after mile dragging the sleds.
You touched on it well there. We haven't yet covered any of the platforms that we can sort of see and watch all the updates from. Obviously, Project Zero on the Facebook page and the Instagram channel, projectzero.earth on the internet. The tracker, tell us all about the tracker, because that's been going and pinging away the entire duration of this journey.
Yeah, it's been amazing, really. You look back through that map. If you get on the Project Zero website and then go to Expedition Dispatches, there's a live tracking button there, and then just save that link. I put it on my phone, and that's updated every 10 minutes. You can see how we're moving. It's going to split in about 48 hours. You'll see Mick and Krusty's track as they head back to Longyearbyen for a sauna and a couple of whiskeys, while Kit and I will on a separate tracker crossing the island, avoiding the bears. So, and then you'll see us rejoin at the bottom and then sail back to Norway. So, definitely get in that tracker. Obviously, Instagram, both Kit and I independently, but also the Project Zero one, you'll have images and blog updates. There may be a bit of radio silence when we're on the ice, and then we'll catch everybody up with the images. But, definitely follow that tracker.
And when do we get to share our next whiskey together, Geoff? When are you back in the valley that is Currumbin?
Should be back middle of June. Mid-June, be the latest, mate. We'll see you there and have a whiskey. Forward to it.
The first week of July after Botswana, so we'll have tales to tell from different parts of the world. I'm sure yours are going to be slightly more challenging than mine. Mine's more of a safari G&T, and you're going to be doing Overeen on the ice field. So let's compare notes.
Yeah, We've got one bottle of Overeem left. We're going to save it for the very end.
I've got to say, from everybody from Wild Earth, happy birthday. You've just celebrated another significant milestone. I think your 21st or something yet again. So well done for getting through it. Slightly dusty head this morning, but well deserved. And for everybody that watches this, the Wild Earthlings audience, thank you for your time. Kit, haven't even seen your face once. I'm sending you a big hug from afar, you awesome gentleman. Got to see his face at least once. Champion, how you doing?
Yeah, good to see you. How you doing, Ben?
Very, very well. We will talk in person when you get back. For the sake of this one, though, we're all over and out. It's 45 minutes done. Look after each other. I know you will. You're the best father-son combination I know apart from my own. So have an amazing time out there.
Thanks so much, man. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Benny. Talk soon.
All right, Geoff. Cheers, my friend. See you. Bye-bye.